Hey there, it's Laura Shill with eXp Realty, and I am here to talk to you today about selling your home for sale by owner. You have either made the decision to try and sell it by owner, or you're thinking about it. And I wanted to walk you through some of the things you need to know about the market and how to get this done successfully. So I've come up with this survival guide. I'm going to walk you through it. It should take a few minutes to go through some details, and hopefully you'll find this valuable information. So for sale by owner in Wisconsin, traditionally, if you were to go with an agent, you are going to pay about 6% commission. And if you go the for sale by owner route, you can save anywhere from 3 to 6% um, based on the idea that you may still have to pay a buyer's agent. It's something that as a for sale by owner, I would want you to really think about offering a buyer's agent commission. In the Milwaukee market, you can usually get this done for 2 to 2.5%. And the reason is because most buyers that are currently active in the market already are working with a buyer's agent. So if you want that buyer to write an offer on your home, they might not be able to afford the buyer's agent fee themselves. They may need it as part of the offer to purchase. So that's kind of how it's always been done. And if you are hoping to have all of the buyers in the market looking at your property, I would really recommend working with a buyer's agent. So this could save you anywhere from $9,000 to $18,000 on a typical $300,000 sale. It's definitely a lot of money to think about there. But in a traditional sale, you have an agent that guides you through the whole process. And in your own sale, you really have to kind of figure it out on your own. It could be great if you've done a lot of transactions before and you really know how the current market works and how all the contracts work. It's not a terrible idea to try it yourself. But if you're brand new to it, I would maybe consider thinking about using an agent. The agent in a traditional sale also handles all of your showings and helps you through all of the negotiations and price setting and is basically your advisor. When you sell for sale by owner, you have to be there for all of the showings, and you don't necessarily know when buyers reach out to you whether they're qualified or not. Typically, buyers that are working with agents are pre-screened by those agents to have already looked at whether or not they're pre-approved with a lender or not. So that's actually a really good bonus to working with buyers agents that have qualified buyers, because you're not wasting your time with people who just want to come look at your house. So the next thing when you list your home, you really want to pay attention to first impressions and how to prepare your home. So these are things like decluttering and deep cleaning, generally taking things off the counters, really kind of pre-packing will really, really help you in your home sale. Maximize your curb appeal. Definitely go for some fresh mulch, trim your bushes, power wash anything that needs to be power washed. And then neutralize color in your home. I've had this discussion with many, many sellers over the years on whether or not to paint or not. And I think it comes down to the fact that, like, if you have a trendy in style color, I think that's fine. But if you have a couple colors that maybe have been around for a long time, or they're very bright, or they're very particular to you, a fresh coat of paint in a neutral color can really go a long way. And then brighten every room. Open up the curtains when there's a showing. That's a huge one. Make sure you take pictures when there is good sunlight. Change out your light bulbs for bright LEDs, or make sure that all your light bulbs are currently working or match. Sometimes you have different kinds of warmth to your bulbs. Let's make sure they all match. And just brighten up your space as much as possible. Here are a couple ideas to quick boost your value that are under $1,000 and easily done over the weekend. One is your paint touch-ups. Really look around either at your existing paint colors. If there are dings and things on the walls that you can fix, if you have extra paint, do that. If not, you can repaint a whole room for under $200 generally. Update your hardware. If you have a kitchen that's maybe on the older side, think about going to some more modern hardware that is fairly inexpensive that you can do pretty quickly. And also changing out light fixtures. If you have a home that has outdated light fixtures or you haven't replaced them in a while, consider looking at current styles and replacing those light fixtures. They actually can make a really big difference in how the home feels, if it feels modern or out of style. The last one is just to touch up your front door. Think about a bold color like navy, black, or red to create that powerful first impression. If you don't want to go wild with the color, just make sure that your front door is clean and has a fresh coat of whatever color it is. It goes a long way. Pricing your home correctly. Let's talk about price. This is actually where your agent comes in handy. They're the one that's out there and understands pricing and what the market is doing. If you do want to go down the route of listing your home for sale by owner on your own, you're going to have to research the comparable sales just like us agents do. You want to look at homes sold most recently, so the last 3 to 6 months, with similar square footage, lot size, and features. You definitely don't want to just look at the neighbor that sold next door when they're maybe 1,000 square feet bigger than your home. Then you want to consider market conditions. What has been happening in the market recently? Is it slowing down? Is your neighborhood still really hot? There are some markets right now where we're seeing multiple offers, and then there's some markets where homes are sitting. And then price it strategically. Find out who your competition is. Who is currently on the market that does not have an accepted offer? See where they're priced and how you stack up. If your neighbors that are on the market have open houses, you may want to go visit those homes that are for sale and just see how your home compares to their home based on the price. You might want to consider being just under market value to really drum up demand. And also, when you are selling for sale by owner, buyers have really come to expect the home to be a little on the cheaper side because they're saving the commission and they think that they get to save it, not you. So sometimes it doesn't always work out to you getting the most amount of money for the transaction. A lot of times buyers will put in offers that are lower than even your asking price. So here's a couple ways you can market. First, you want to take good photos. Either hire a professional or make sure you're using a really good camera. Make sure it is a sunny day, all your curtains are open, all your clutter is put away. Take anywhere from 30 to 50 good photos, and then let's get your home online. Yes, Facebook Marketplace does work sometimes, but there are also other sites like owner.com, forsalebyowner.com, a couple other places. Zillow you are not able to list for sale by owner on Zillow anymore. So just keep that in mind. You can also put out a nice looking sign out in the front yard. I would suggest getting something large, maybe spend a little bit money on having a sign made versus going to Menards or Home Depot and getting a yard sign, because it can be pretty cheap, maybe under $50, but you really want people to be able to either read your phone number, or maybe if you're creative enough and you know how to do this, put a QR code on your sign that people can scan and take you right to a landing page with your pictures of your house. That would be a really great tool for you. And let's talk about when you actually do find a buyer. Finding buyers in this market can be pretty easy. There are a lot of people looking for homes right now and not being able to find them because they're up against a lot of competition. So what happens is when you get your first offer, make sure that you examine every detail. Look at the price, the contingencies, the financing type, the closing date, and the earnest money amount. Financing type is interesting. You definitely want, somebody that is a strong buyer financially. They should be giving you a pre-approval as well. And it is acceptable to call the bank that they are pre-approved with and just kind of feel them out a little bit, maybe ask a few questions about how well qualified they are. If the buyer does not have a pre-approval, I would be wary of accepting any kind of offer until they are pre-approved. Then if you need to, you have to prepare a counteroffer. So if the first offer is not acceptable, you will need to draft a counteroffer. And you can counter on anything that needs to be changed. So you don't have to counteroffer everything in the offer, but you do need to change whatever you disagree with. So whether that's price, a closing date, or, things that are included, that kind of thing. Everything, all negotiations that you do must be in writing to be legally binding in Wisconsin. So you can't just call, and talk back and forth and come up with something. Whatever you come up with does need to actually be put into writing and signed by both parties. And then you want to secure earnest money. And earnest money standard is generally 1% to 2% of the purchase price. That is kind of what we see as acceptable. And you're going to want to have that held by a trusted title company or an escrow service. This is not something that you get to just cash and put in your bank. So I would suggest finding and securing a title company who is going to be your closing partner before you even list your home. I highly suggest Attorneys Title in Brookfield. I've been using them my whole career of 10 years. They're great, and they will hold earnest money for you for the sale. That is something that does need to be specified in the offer, so you want to make sure that you let your buyers know that is where the earnest money will be held. I want to go back actually and talk a little bit about the offers. Sometimes the offer itself is a little daunting for new buyers. If you have a buyer that has a buyer's agent, they should be able to write this offer no problem. But if you have a buyer that does not have a buyer's agent, they're going to either need to go to an attorney to draft an offer, which sometimes for sellers isn't great because attorneys can write really weird things in contracts. So I want to talk about it later, but I do actually also have a contract to close service. So if you wanted me to come in and help that buyer draft an offer and then help you all the way to the closing table, that is something that I offer. So let's move on to the inspection and title process. So you have an accepted offer, you guys have agreed to all the terms, and then you're going to have the inspection period. So the buyer is going to come in and inspect the home, usually within the first 14 days. Sometimes it's 10 or 12 days even. And then they're going to come back to you with a list of things that they're asking for you to fix. Generally, this is a really hard point for sale by owners to get through because sometimes buyers that are unrepresented ask for everything, to be quite honest, or they don't know what to ask for. So they get really nervous about this point, and sometimes the deals fall through at this point in particular. So being able to have somebody to help you negotiate through the repairs is, I think, a really smart thing to have. Or just be prepared that this buyer is going to ask you for probably a bunch of things. You can negotiate this. So you can go back and say, well, we'll fix these things, but not these things. And there might be a little bit of back and forth until you guys have figured out what you may or may not be doing for the buyer to move forward. Inspection period goes through, then you as the seller have something to do. You need to order your title insurance. So you're going to go to Attorney's Title or whoever you have chosen to hold your earnest money, and you are going to submit all of your documents to them and include the buyer's information and ask them to start a new title search. So this you want to get done right away because the title search can sometimes take a couple weeks to get back. And they're going to make sure that your title is clear and ready to transfer for the buyer. This is part of the offer, is that you do have to provide clear title to the buyer. So this is actually you doing your part of that section in the offer. Then also what will happen after the inspection period is that the buyer will go to their financing bank or wherever they're getting financing from and start the appraisal process. And that appraiser will come to your home and visit. Usually it's about 30 minutes. They'll take pictures. They might ask you for repairs or what you've done to the home to increase value, and then they'll be out of your hair. So the appraisal, if it doesn't appraise for full value, is another negotiation period where you are going to need help figuring out how to get through that. That can blow up the deal as well. However, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of appraisals come back low these days. So it just kind of depends on what happens. So let's say the appraisal goes through without a hitch. The buyer gets their financing approval. They will send you the financing approval, and you will get a settlement statement to review from Attorney's Title or from wherever title you choose. The buyer is going to want to do a closing final walkthrough. They usually get anywhere from right before closing to 3 days prior to come look at the property, make sure everything is out and it's clean. Also expect if there are repairs done, they might request a repairs walkthrough prior to this final walkthrough. So they might want to do 2 walkthroughs. Then as soon as you look at the settlement statement and you think that it looks great and the buyer thinks it looks great, you will show up to the closing table and everybody will sign. You'll walk away with your check or your wire and the buyer will get the keys to the home. So that is everything that you need to know in order to complete your for sale by owner transaction. I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions, reach out to me. And then I did want to just kind of one more time talk to you about this way that I can support you in your for sale by owner success. If the buyer is unrepresented, does not have an agent, they sometimes get really nervous about how to even go about writing an offer. They don't have an attorney that they know. They don't know how to take that first step. If you hire me as your expert support, I have a flat fee of $2,000, which covers your negotiations and everything from contract to close. And I am working on the seller's behalf, but I do write the offer for the buyer if the buyer so chooses. They can also go pay for their own attorney. But I have found that you as the seller, if you offer this service to the buyer, you say, hey, I've already got an agent that will write this up for you for free if you want to use them. Otherwise, you need to go to an attorney. A lot of times they will have me write it up for them. I will present to you and then we will go back and negotiate anything that needs to be negotiated. Now, you can already pre-negotiate a lot of these items with the buyer. You're going to have a direct conversation with them throughout the marketing process and them coming to see the house. So like you guys might have already decided on a few things like the price or what's included. So hopefully all you need is somebody just to write it all up and everybody signs it. However, sometimes buyers get cold feet or they decide to change the price last minute. So if they write something up that you don't agree to, I will then take over and help you with any counter offers. And I will be able to order title for you and negotiate for you, especially through the inspection period. That part can get dicey sometimes. So I'm going to make sure that you guys actually, once you've found your buyer, that you actually get from contract all the way to closing and make it successful and as pain-free as possible. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to reach out with an email or a text. And if you wanted me to come take a look at your property at any time and see if you're ready to get on the market, or if you've decided that maybe you do want an agent and you do want somebody to do the whole thing for you, I would love to be that agent for you. So thank you so much. Take care.